Hey, hello everybody, and welcome back to another custom chess position theory video. This custom chess position is called Pawns of Perfection, and the reason why it's called Pawns of Perfection is because each side has four pawns that are advanced more than they would in a standard starting chess position, and and how you deal with those pawns is kind of the central theme of this position. So the pawns are there to gain. Well, they already have gained space, but they allow pieces to come out and develop very well, and they also in this position there's no castling, so the kings could be weak. The other thing is that if you notice the setup of the pieces on the back ranks, in a standard chess game there'd be a bishop over here and a knight over here, but um, the pieces have been swapped, so this also allows a little bit more for pieces to potentially get trapped if like the pawns were to move and create a wall. So I'm just going to go over, there's not that much theory because there's so many possibilities of the position, but I just kind of want to go over um, some of the main um, some of the main themes and ideas by showing some main lines in this position. So I'm not going to start with the main move, but I'm going to probably start with, well, before I start, actually just to show um, is that this position isn't exactly symmetrical. You'll notice that white's queen is behind a pawn, but black's queen is not. And that is just um, so black's queen could potentially take up a good center space right in the middle, but white could not do the same thing. And this kind of just makes the position more balanced. So I'm going to start with the most natural move, which is knight f3, which is like a standard developing move. And over here, I guess I'll knight c6, which is already kind of an inaccuracy. Um, d3, so white is opening the position. C3 can be played. So, for example, if white were to play b3 here, then black would play a3, and um, and now white's rook and bishop are trapped. So that would not be a good move. So instead, white takes, um, black takes back, and white plays a3, and white is able to now develop by going bishop a2, rook and rook b1. Uh, in some of the lines, black could also take back with this d pawn. They're trying to play a3 on the next move, but white can play a3. Now, if black were to play b3, um, white is able to take. So instead, um, after a3, black would probably play that just something like f6. So actually, f6 is quite a common move. Um, f6 can be played by black, and it looks like white can just play this move e6 and block white's pieces, which is probably why I haven't seen this move played too often, even though it's kind of like the main move. But after white plays e6, knight c6, for example, can be played by black, and white is not going to be able to trap black. So first of all, if white were to play g6, black can take, and if white took with this pawn, then black takes on e6, and if white takes with the h pawn, white drops the rook. So d3 can be played over here, a3 can also be played, um, rook h4 can be played, and we kind of just have a game because white can't move that pawn, and eventually black's gonna play like knight d6 and try to pressure this pawn um, and get their pieces out. So white can also just play d3. So after f6, e6. Perhaps a more direct way to play it is black can go for this move queen d5, which of course is attacking this f5 pawn, and if that pawn drops, then so does e6, and black is able to get their pieces out, wins white's pawns, and white has no more pressure. Because like in a position like this, black hasn't moved any of their pawns, but they're still kind of pressuring white, as in they're kind of making it hard for white to like develop these pieces. So they're doing good. Um, c3 can be played, which is like f6, knight d6, f6 for black. Knight d6 is played to put more pressure, because when this was played, the bishop is out. White plays d3, and the idea behind this move is just to blast open these pawns and reduce the pressure that black is putting. But after d3, black can just go for the pawn. Knight takes f5, d takes e4, the queen takes on e6 with check, king f2, and black is up a pawn, but white has a little, like black has a few moves to go to develop this bishop somewhere. Meanwhile, white's pieces are all they're all out basically. So that's why white is still slightly better in this position, but that's how the position can be played. After after queen d5, white can also play d3 and just give up this f5 pawn, and the reason they can do this is because they can win the d4 pawn. Queen e5, bishop e3, and black can play bishop takes e6 now as well, and just keep playing this one like that. And of course, after e6, f takes g5 is another move we have to consider, but that move kind of wastes some time. And yeah, black is just a little bit worse off in this position, because they don't they're kind of like one move behind, because they just took here. So tempo is very important. So that's kind of knight f3. There are still many more possibilities. So I'm probably now going to show, yeah, d3 next, because d3 is probably like another extremely natural move, just because players will see, okay, after d3, if there's c3, then they can take and play a3. So after d3, there are two main moves though. f6 can be played like we saw before. Black can play knight f3, which kind of transposes into what we've seen before, but white can also just take on c4, and the position could be played from there. So if black were to take, white could probably develop or something. So black could also take on e5, and then there's more tactics with like c3. So these are kind of opens up the position a lot, which can make it very tactical, but also queen a5 can be played. Queen a5 can be played, and after queen a5, there's many moves that can be played, like knight g3, d takes c4, knight f3, king f2 even can be played, and just give up that pawn. So in these lines get quite tactical, because the center pawns just get blown open. So d3 I would say is a very, very tactical move. But a lot of times after d3 you'll get moves like knight b6, which you can just take. So I will remove that move. And then c3 is pretty common as well, but the reason why c3 isn't the best move is just because this move kind of solves white's development problems, because now white can develop all their pieces. So black shouldn't play c3, because that just kind of helps white get what they want in the position, and black's not clamping down on white. So that's d3. And yeah, I'm just trying to cover the most natural moves first before we. So rook h4 is also a very natural move, which like attacks here. f6 is played, and the reason I'm not going as much with the engine recommendations here is because I have the engine on torch 4, but Stockfish 18 actually recognizes this position. So like a lot of positions that have more pieces than normal chess, Stockfish 17 and now 18, they don't really, they struggle with evaluating the position. But here I was able to get theory with Stockfish 18, which is the strongest engine. So c3 is here, d3, knight e3, and we have a position. So here black was able to get c3 in, and like knight b6, black can perhaps hold on to the c4 pawn, which would make these pieces kind of trapped in the corner. So that is that. And now if white were to start with c3, then there's d3, knight e3, knight b6, b3. So this is another move. So if we see after rook h4 lines I was showing, then a c3 was played and white was able to hold on d3. But if white plays c3 first, d3, knight e3, knight b6, protecting this c4 pawn, then we have b3. So white realizes that they're probably not going to be winning this pawn on c4, but they kind of have to open that position. And b3 is kind of an unnatural move to play because after a takes b3, if white were to take back, white is just dropping the rook. But the idea behind this is after a takes b3, white just calmly plays bishop b2. Now they're threatening to take on b3 and win the pawn back. So black takes on a2 to kind of secure their pawn advantage. White takes back, black takes, white takes, and black plays b3. So now it just looks like black kind of clamped down on white's position, and okay, white kind of got their pieces free, but once the bishop goes to b1, it'll be trapped. But in this position, white just goes and takes that pawn on b3. Once black takes back, white takes back. And in this position, although white is down a piece, white is completely fine in this position and even maybe has a slight advantage despite giving up the piece, because what has happened in this position is that black's pawns that were preventing white from like getting their pieces out, white just blew all those pawns away, and now they have no issues with piece development. The only good pawn black has that's still advanced is this d3 pawn over here. And now if black were to try to play like f6 or something, there's e6, and black is in a f6 e6, and white is in a good position to hold on to these pawns because they have better development, which would make it harder for black to develop, because black is much likely to get trapped in. Um, mhm. So after queen c7, for example, I could play c4. Um, they could bring their pieces in, and black is just behind in development. So getting ahead in development and getting rid of the opponent's pawns that are kind of blocking you is a very important deal, which is why this c3 line is very interesting, because white just blows open all those pawns with c3. So this is quite a nice idea as a first move. Mm, okay, so I'm just wondering if there's anything else I should go over first, because the main line has quite a lot of theory. Yeah, so one other move before we go to the main first moves, which there are actually a lot of these moves work, but I just have b3 as my first main move. a3 can also be played. And a3 as the first move, again, it's just looking to break down the structure of pawns that black has that's kind of preventing white from having enough activity. And so many moves can be played. So knight c6, black can play. Black can also play e6, um, and black can play b takes a3. After b takes a3, um, there are many moves that can be played. Um, the main move is b3. After b3, f6 is a move, knight c6 is a move, but after a takes b3, c takes b3, and e6, um, white takes on c4 and is fine. But if black were to take, then rook takes a3, rook takes a3, bishop takes a3, queen a5, queen c1, queen takes c5, check, king f2, king goes to d8 to stop taking here, knight f3, queen c7, queen takes, king takes, knight g3, and white is just way ahead in development. So again, if white is able to kind of break up those pawn structures, it can be good for white. And in this particular variation, white didn't have to give up a piece to do it, so white is just better. But yeah, a3, lots of times the opponent will just not take. They'll play knight c6, so I won't go too much into detail. And so we arrive at the one more thing, and that is knight g3 is a move, knight c6, and many moves can be played. But I just want to go to b3 now. So again, there's so many good opening choices, so I'm limiting all options into those within plus 0.3 of the best move. So b3, this looks to break up the pawns right away. And this I've put as the main line, although the other lines that I've shown are almost equally as good or around equally as good. So any of these can be played, but b3, let's go with knight c6. Okay, actually I'm not going to show knight c6 first because knight c6 is a little bit less intuitive move than other moves because we're just dropping c4, but it seems like every move is kind of dropping that. So let's see f6 because f6 defends it and kind of mimics what white just played b3. So white goes e6, knight d6 is played, then c3 is played, and the bishop protects this pawn. After d3, so both sides are kind of blocking in the opponent's side. Queen f3 is played now, so white protects that pawn and attacks the rook, and the game can be played from here. So again, so many moves can be played, which is why I don't have any more moves in the theory here. And again, black could probably take and then would run into bishop b2 and similar things, as well as the white would be taking on d3. Black can probably play maybe in some lines. Black could play like g6 and then bishop g7. So neither side is going to be able to trap their opponent. And other moves work there as well. So that's f6. But the main move is knight c6. So there are many main moves, but I have knight c6 over here. And after knight c6, white just accepts that the pawn that's hanging, but black takes on e5. So actually this might be quite a natural move because black is winning a pawn back. So knight f3 is played. Black now plays f6, c3. So again, what the big thing that both sides are trying to do is they're trying to break up the opponent's pawn. So c3 does just that. Bishop takes c4, knight takes d4, queen d5, and the queen is coming in, attacking the rook. So the rook moves to h4. Now pawn takes on g5, also attacking the rook, but white just plays knight e3, attacking the queen and the bishop while the rook is hanging. So a lot of these custom positions get quite tactical. Queen b7, rook h2, and the game can continue from here. So that's knight takes d4 over here. Now after c3, instead of c3, white can just, after a knight f3 and f6, white can just take on e5, and after takes back, queen f3 or c3 can be played. Queen f3, rook a6, c3. And yeah, that's how knight c6 works. So knight c6 is tactical. Everyone takes pawns and opens up the center. But so we went over knight c6 and f6. We can go over e6 now. So after e6, black is white just wants to take on c4, open up the position. Black takes on f5, c3, and f6. So this again gets extremely tactical because both sides are just opening the position. Queen a2 is the main line, lining up against black's king. And many moves can be played. Then other move that white can play is knight f3. And again, many moves can be played. Or bishop takes f5 can be played. So that's e6. Maybe one of the more natural moves is rook a5. After knight f3, where white defends a pawn. Now, again, these f6, e6, h6, a bunch of moves can be played. I guess the key difference is that after f6, e6, black can take on f5. But many moves can be played there, so f6 makes more sense there. But of course, e6 can still be played, as well as h6 or a takes b3 can be played. C takes b3 here, and yeah, you can keep playing that. And h6 can also be played after b3. Again, white takes on c4, and after rook a5, e6, h takes g5. So rook a5 and e6 kind of transpose to other lines, but h takes g5 can be played as well. So there's not that much theory because there's just so many moves that can be played. But I guess before I end the video, knight b6, it could be played, I guess, but maybe it's a little bit less accurate than the other moves, just because white can still take on c4, and if black takes back, white has like a tempo. They could play c3 right away as well. And now black's knight moved twice in the opening. But yeah, in summary, I guess, of this position, extremely interesting position with many possibilities. So there are many lines to open up the position and to kind of keep the position closed. White can sacrifice, like a side can sacrifice their pieces for the pawns in some lines, like at least one piece for some pawns, and just to stay ahead of development. Or and there's lots of interesting maneuvers with the pieces. You have to defend and attack at the same time, and sometimes with like b3, you can just blow open the position tactically right in the beginning. Or you could play a more slow and quiet game. It's sometimes where like both sides will kind of push their pieces, push their pawns forward and kind of lock in the position. Though it seems in the main lines this happens a little bit less, but lots of possibilities for this position. So yeah, hope you like that theory video, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching.